One of the most shocking yet secret royal secrets of the past few years saw a queen who had been buried inside of the royal burial ground at Frogmore, dug up and exhumed. The royal burial ground houses the remains of a number of prominent members of the royal family, and it is expected that in the future this will become populated with more monarchs and their close families following their deaths. Buried inside the royal mausoleum, there is Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, but Frogmore's burial ground is a rather off-limits and private space today. But there was a queen who was exhumed, and she was recently dug up, and her remains were then sent back to her homeland. But what is the story of the fugitive queen? To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Princess Maria of Romania was born on the 6th of January 1900 inside of Friedestein Palace in what was the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha within the German Empire. She was actually named after her grandmother, who was the Grand Duchess of Russia, and her parents were the future King Ferdinand I of Romania and Princess Marie of Edinburgh. Her mother claimed about Maria that she was from her first day a child of joy and sunshine, for these miracles do come to pass, gay, smiling, and astonishingly loving from her tenderest infancy. She was more than a consolation, she was a revelation, and I loved her with a love difficult to describe. I could not let her out of my sight. She was a message of peace and hope. We christened her Marie after my mother and her mother before her, but we called her Mignon, and this name has stuck to her forever. To us all, she is and always will be Mignon. Her mother and father did become the King and Queen of Romania, and Maria travelled with them to Romania and she lived there. But at the time, she was the young woman, and the First World War greeted Europe, and Princess Maria actually served as a nurse alongside her mother. She was considered a beautiful young woman, and she enjoyed life as a royal, taking luxurious holidays with her family. But in 1922, King Alexander of Yugoslavia was introduced to Maria, and Maria and Alexander then fell in love and got engaged. The pair were married on the 8th of June 1922, and it was a large event that took place in Belgrade at St. Michael's Cathedral. Different representatives from different nations, including many royals, attended, but on the 3rd of October 1929, Maria became the Queen of Yugoslavia, as Alexander renamed the country and nation. The couple settled on a large estate as the royal residence in Belgrade, as it wasn't completed, and Maria was seen as a fair woman who established good links with different religious figures, and she was also rather generous. Maria helped out the local peasants who worked on her estate, and she also founded many different schools for local children, and even paid for many scholarships so that poorer children could attend better schools, and therefore have a better chance at a start in life. She had a number of children too, and she did live a simple life, and her husband's popularity also increased because of his wife that was by his side. Maria herself was also a good foreign ambassador. She could speak many different languages, and she would entertain other monarchs and members of royal families, and she was good company. She was self-sufficient and also did not rely on drivers or others to ferry her around different places. However, her husband was assassinated in 1934 in Marseille. Her oldest son, who was just 11 at the time, then became Peter II of Yugoslavia, and he would become the last king to reign over the country. A regency council was established, and Maria was given a very healthy allowance to raise her sons and to support herself, and she got involved in campaigns to help the sick. She did suffer with her health following her husband's death, and in 1938 she purchased a farm in Bedfordshire in England. As the Second World War broke out, she then moved here permanently, and she took her younger children with her and left her eldest son in the nation as he was the monarch. She was later given the title of Queen Mother, but during the Second World War, Yugoslavia would declare itself neutral. However, in the March of 1941, Yugoslavia was declared an ally of Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, as the regent Prince Paul said this. Maria's son, King Peter II, did depose Prince Paul as regent, but the Nazis would then attack Yugoslavia, forcing King Peter II to flee to Britain, and he would then link up with his mother again. Maria thought that she should probably head back to Yugoslavia to stand for Yugoslav people, many of whom had joined the partisans and began to resist the German forces. But during World War II, Maria did send help via the Red Cross to those Yugoslav people who had become prisoners of war. She sent these under a false name, but the prisoners knew who was behind the parcels. However, following the conflict on the 29th of November 1945, the monarch inside of Yugoslavia was abolished, and her son, the king, then went to America and settled. Maria remained in England and purchased a farm in Kent, and she even enjoyed working on the fields herself. She didn't have too much contact with the British royal family, and she also got involved in the Yugoslav community in London, and she also exhibited much of her own artwork. But she remained in exile for the rest of her life, and she then died on the 22nd of June 1961 at the age of 61. She had a funeral which was held not inside of a royal chapel but inside of the Serbian Orthodox Church in Notting Hill. And following her funeral, her remains and coffin were carried to the royal burial ground at Frogmore, which is attached to Windsor Castle. Maria's coffin was lowered into a burial spot which had been dug for her, and she was laid to rest for many years. But then in the April of 2013, there was an appeal lodged to the British royal family to allow Queen Maria's remains to be exhumed from the royal burial ground at Frogmore and then be repatriated back home to the land where she ruled. Queen Elizabeth II gave consent for the exhumation to take place, as had Crown Prince Alexander and other surviving relatives of Maria. The Dean of Windsor also expressed his support for the disinterment. The Burial Act of 1857 claims that, except where a body is removed from one consecrated place of burial to another by faculty, it is not lawful to move remains that have been interred in a place of burial without licence under the hand of one of Her Majesty's principal Secretaries of State, and with such precautious as such the Secretary of State may prescribe the conditions of such licence. Maria had the permission of the Queen for her remains to be dug up, and a licence to exhume her was granted. It was said that she would be transported to the Republic of Serbia to be reinterred in the Oplenk Royal Mausoleum. The exhumation took place and the ground was broken inside of the royal burial ground, and her remains were dug out of the grave and were lifted out. Her coffin was lifted, and there must have been some form of protective cover or something over this, or her remains may have been placed inside of a different coffin. The exact specifics of the exhumation are rather secretive, but the remains of Queen Maria were then taken back to her former lands and she would be reinterred inside of the royal mausoleum. It's rare for someone to be exhumed from a site of royal burials, such as Westminster Abbey or St George's Chapel, and it's even rarer for the remains of a royal to be dug up and repatriated to a different country. But Maria was allowed a burial inside of the prestigious burial site in the first place because of her stature as a monarch. But Elizabeth II permitted the consecrated ground to be broken within the burial ground and the removal of the Queen of Yugoslavia's body. Maria, by all accounts, was a very kind and nice woman who served the people well, and she today is buried in the land which she ruled over. Thank you for watching, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. And again, thank you so much for watching.